Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Aman Luthra, and in this video we're going to talk about 5 myths of a plant-based diet. If you want to learn about how you can take action on climate change, as well as go on some amazing adventures like this one, go ahead and smash that subscribe button down below. I make new videos every Friday and I know you don't want to miss out on them. So before we get started, I just want to say a few things. I personally have been vegan for 2 years now and I have loved it. It has changed my life so much for the better. But with that said, it is not my goal to convince you to also be vegan or even vegetarian. I think you should always do what you think is best for yourself. So I primarily went vegan for environmental reasons. And I made a separate video about how going plant-based can really help the environment, and I'll link that up right up here, so go ahead and watch that one if you haven't seen it already. But with that said, I think there's a lot of fallacies that have been spread around throughout the internet when it comes to being vegan or being plant-based. And there are 5 particular myths that I want to talk about when it comes to adopting a plant-based diet, which we need to discuss. And I think the reason that these myths even exist is all because of our mindset. So in order to talk about these myths, the first thing that has to happen is we have to have an open mind about this. So let's just go ahead and dive into myth number 1. So the first myth about going plant-based is that plant-based food does not taste good. A lot of people think that vegan and vegetarian food tastes bland, or that if they go vegan and vegetarian then all they can eat is a salad. But you have to understand that in order for meat and dairy to taste good, you have to learn how to cook it correctly and how to flavor it with the right sauces and spices. And that is exactly how plant-based food works too. Over time you'll learn how to combine your rice, your lentils, your beans, and everything else that you'll cook with the right sauces and spices. Personally, once I figured out how to combine all of these ingredients, I realized that I enjoy it so much more than the meat. And I think taste above all else is just a mindset. If you go into something thinking that it will taste good, that's probably what you'll get out of it. And similarly, if you go into something thinking that it will taste bad, then that's also what you'll get out of it. So it might take you some time to figure out what you like and what you don't like, but I promise you there is something for everybody. And I think what you'll realize is that there's a lot more variety of foods that you probably didn't even know about when you do embrace it. So in order to combat this myth of that plant-based food does not taste good, we have to go into it with an open mind. Now the second myth about going plant-based is that vegans and vegetarians are unhealthy. I hear this one all the time, that if you go vegan or vegetarian, then you're going to be missing out on certain nutrients. But if that was really true, then my health would be a total mess right now. My health is in better condition now than before I was vegan. And I talked a little bit about this in my last video, but there's a lot of people who think that when they stop eating meat, they're not going to get enough protein. But did you know that all protein is initially made by plants? The protein that you got from the animals came from the plants that the animals ate. Now obviously you don't have to eat the same plants that they eat, but there are more than enough sources of plant-based protein, which probably has more protein per calorie than a lot of the meats that we eat. And similarly, the calcium that you got from the milk that the animals drank also originated in the plants that the animals ate. When I went fully plant-based, I felt better. I had a lot more energy every day. I had a lot less acne, and overall I just felt more alive. So you're really not missing out anything when you adopt a plant-based lifestyle. The only thing that you might not be able to get is vitamin B12, and your best bet for B12 when you go plant-based is to take a supplement or to eat B12 fortified foods. But other than B12, there's really nothing that you're missing out on. So don't worry about missing out on certain nutrients. Just do your research and you'll be okay. Now, myth number 3 about going plant-based is that being vegan or vegetarian is expensive. And this could not be farther from the truth. The average amount that an American spends on groceries is $387 per month, or about $400 per month. I spend about $120 to $150 a month on my own groceries. When you go to the grocery store, you should know that produce is generally cheaper than meat and dairy products. Now, when it can be expensive is if you buy direct substitutes. For example, if you purchased an Impossible Burger or a Beyond Burger in the store, then that's probably going to be more expensive than buying a beef burger. But if you buy the individual ingredients and then learn how to make the burger on your own, then you can make a lot more burgers than what you'll get from buying these direct substitutes. And another thing that you should consider is purchasing your items in bulk, which will also make it a lot cheaper. And finally, with time, you'll learn how to purchase your groceries seasonally and at different stores so that it can be affordable for you. So don't worry about your wallet when you go plant-based. It's in good hands. Now, the fourth myth about going plant-based is that being vegan or vegetarian is hard or restrictive. And I think restrictive is really not the right word to use, because many people think that they're essentially giving up on foods that they already eat. But when you go fully plant-based, you learn about so many new foods that you probably didn't know existed before. For example, I learned about so many different species of broccoli that I didn't know existed before, like bok choy and Chinese broccoli, which I use almost all the time now when I cook. So instead of thinking about the things that you're losing, focus on what you're gaining out of it. And being plant-based doesn't have to be hard either. At the end of the day, the effort that you put into being plant-based is what you'll get out of it. Now, part of being vegan or vegetarian is that to some extent you're going to have to be flexible here and there if the situation is tight. For example, you might go to a restaurant or a party where there's nothing vegan on the menu, and in that case you'll have to be flexible. Now, of course, that doesn't mean you can just forget about being vegan or vegetarian if you commit to it. But if you decide to go vegan, I promise you'll get through at least 99% of situations. What's important is that you keep your intentions in check about eating plant-based and why you are eating plant-based. So if you mess up a few times here and there, please don't beat yourself up about it. It's seriously okay. Even I mess up a few times here and there without realizing it. But again, it's all about keeping your intentions in check, and then being vegan or vegetarian does not have to be hard at all. Now, the fifth and final myth about going plant-based is that being vegan or vegetarian is just a diet. And I know I've been talking about food this whole time. But the thing is, I like to think about veganism as a lifestyle. A diet, I think, is a temporary thing rather than a long-term solution. For example, you might be going vegan to lose weight, which is amazing. But once you get to the weight that you want to be at, you have to keep living that way in order to maintain it. If you go back to what you were doing before, then you're just going to get all that weight back. And more than that, I think when you become vegan and vegetarian, it becomes a part of your character. You put your values back into the environment, back into the animals, and back into your own health. And you become compassionate towards nature and to other people as well. And the whole reason veganism was even invented in the first place was to reduce animal suffering as much as possible. So besides diet, that also means trying to avoid things like leather, which comes from cows, and trying to avoid using animals in scientific research whenever possible. Above all, being vegan and vegetarian is about being compassionate and showing empathy to other people, to other animals, and to the environment. So if you're trying to go vegan or vegetarian, don't think of it as a diet. Think of it as a lifestyle that will become part of your character and your identity. And that's it. Those are the 5 myths about a plant-based diet. And pretty much all of these myths come down to our mindset. So if you're planning to go vegan or vegetarian, I promise you the easiest way to avoid all of these problems is to go into it with an open mind. Forget about what you heard about plant-based food tasting bad, being expensive, or whatever, and just go into it with an open mind. And I promise you, it'll have a much better chance of working out for you in the end. I will definitely make a future video about how you can transition into a plant-based diet. So make sure you subscribe down below so that you don't miss out on that. And also please give this video a like as well. If you have any questions, you can absolutely comment down below, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. And just remember, nature can live without us, but we cannot live without nature. Okay, see you guys!